What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the You Know Ball podcast. I am your host, Troll Bro Dude, and today, before we get into everything, I need to talk about our partners from Underdog Fantasy. If you have not already signed up for Underdog using the promo code SLOP, that's S-L-O-P, please do that today if you are able to, because we have a big announcement coming with Underdog later this week on December 15th. So on Thursday, when SLOP season officially kicks off, we're going to be doing something big with Underdog for this trade season. So please be sure to sign up if you've not already. Use their pick'em, which I have given some tips on recent episodes about some choices for pick'em. There's also their nightly draft contests on there as well that we have been doing for the NBA. If you have not signed up already, please sign up. It's going to be a lot of fun during this SLOP season working with Underdog. So, Sam, how you feeling, dude? You're looking and feeling great?
Yeah, no. I had a higher or lower with Underdog this weekend about how many more weeks I would make it, given my illness. Happy to say, if you took the higher, you're walking away with some slop cash.
Let's go.
Yeah, if you use promo code SLOP, and you having the resiliency of a cockroach, you would have done very well. Yeah, I feel great. I was not in bed all weekend with the shivers. You know when everyone knows the best time to get sick, right? Yeah, that's while you're driving home on a Friday for work.
Yeah,
so you just get to be like sick the entire weekend. So I got that.
You get to relax.
Yeah, I got to relax, body chills, the whole thing. Now, I mean, I probably, so there would have been other times that I wouldn't have done this podcast, but I didn't want these hateful little hogs to think that I was running from the grind with the Warriors Celtics game. I have a poster of courage. I will face the music. I will face this, And I say this to Warriors fans. It's one thing to get on me for sharing it positively, commenting in the article. This means I'm going to read it later. Perhaps you'd feel more comfortable in China if you think this is worthy of criticism. Yeah, so sorry, that was a Nate Duncan tweet that I was reading. Sorry, I had a word note that I wanted to read to Warriors fans, but I got mixed up with my Nate Duncan screenshot. So.
Classic mix-up. So Sam will repent for Jayson Tatum's sins later in the episode. And we will go over the Celtics-Warriors game, which happened this past weekend, and discuss more of that. Just kind of, we'll give a little bit of an update where both teams are at right now. But before that, we need to get into the slop that dropped today, and probably our favorite team to just make fun of, the Los Angeles Lakers, are once again in the news for some truly amazing stuff here. Specifically, Bojan Bogdanovic is the name of the player that has come up in trade talks recently regarding the Lakers. I don't know if you caught this, Sam, but are you aware that Bojan scored 38 points against the Lakers last night?
So I did not.
Then immediately 2 articles today from Mark Stein and Shams came out connecting them to Bojan.
God, I wish it wasn't like I'm trying to decide if Lakers fans deserve this or not. I don't know. Like, I guess they do, so I don't really feel that bad actually. But goddamn, dude, fuck. It would be very funny if they traded one of their first round picks for Bojan after the Pistons got him for what, a second and a
Kelly Olynyk. Like
Olynyk. Oh no, not even a second. It was
just Kelly Olynyk and Saban Lee who they cut. So that is all right. So in fairness to the Lakers, apparently they did try to acquire Bojan this offseason. I believe it was before the Talen Horton-Tucker for Patrick Beverley trade. It sounds like they were trying to get Bojan for one of those picks. Or maybe they weren't. I believe it was, we don't know the full details, but it was basically a construction that would have sent Russell Westbrook out, and they would have gotten back Bojan and some other stuff. And this was actually connecting. There was a rumor, and it was confirmed by Sam Amick, that Donovan Mitchell would have been sent to Charlotte in that trade, which was something I had not even known. But to be fair to the Lakers, they did try to get Bojan, but it didn't work out, obviously. They go with Kelly Olynyk, who, like, we think Kelly Olynyk's a solid, good player, but Bojan's better. And the Lakers then end up keeping Russell Westbrook. And now they're in a situation where they're probably not even going to trade Russell Westbrook in this trade because Westbrook's actually been like their third or fourth best player this year. They kind of need him.
Yeah.
So they're going to trade Patrick Beverley, who they already tried to trade, or who they just acquired, and Kendrick Nunn is the theory here. So they trade Nunn and Beverley because they're both expiring and they both can add up to around what Bojan makes. They might have to throw in a minimum guy just to make the money work, but they could do that plus a protected 2027 pick is the thought here. That's like the construction of the deal that makes sense if they don't want to move on from Westbrook. And it sounds like they kind of want to keep him now.
So protections are, I guess, with once the word protections comes in, it all depends on the protections, right? Like top 1, top 2 protection. Okay. Like that's interesting, now, but if we're talking a lottery protection, okay. So what happens with these lottery protections, when people say lottery protections, what you're asking is what happens if it falls in the lottery protected range? Because they can't, would it like go to the next round?
So I can tell you what I know they could do, which is you can only protect a pick as far out as you can trade picks.
Right.
So,
exactly.
So for example, right now teams can trade picks until like 2030, basically.
Right.
Like you could trade a 2030 first right now, I believe.
Yeah.
And if that is the case, you could lottery protect it in 27, maybe top 10 protect it in 28, or you could just go lottery protected all those years. But at a certain point, if it either becomes nothing or it becomes unprotected, and in this case, Detroit would be taking the risk of a pick that's 5 years out already to start. That's protect. My thought behind it is that it's probably more like what the Sixers have done, which is top 5 protected. Like when they sent out their 2027 first to the Nets, they top 5 protected it in the past. That's generally the top 4, top 5, top 7 maybe. But like a top 10, a lottery protected first, they don't have a ton of value because of this. Like you're basically, if you're Detroit, you're like, well, what if the Lakers are really good in 27, 28, 29, and then we just don't get a pick? Like it doesn't really make any sense to us to do that unless the upside is like this pick is top 3 protected, top 5 protected, whatever. Then that has real upside to being like a decent, good pick that we could then flip again, like they did with the Milwaukee pick after they traded Jeremy Grant and got Jalen Duren back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think, I guess just the same problem I have with this, because Bojan fits, right?
Sure.
I think like he actually does fit what the Lakers need, gives them some scoring pop, gives them size on the wing, just something that a lot of teams need, by the way. Like,
incredible shooter off the catch.
Well, and I guess that's the thing is like, if I were the Pistons and the Lakers are trying to like hardball me on this, I would just wait, because you don't, they're dealing from a position of weakness. I think everybody understands that about the Lakers, is that that front office is really feeling like the pressure here to, LeBron, Clutch, Anthony Davis, all this, they've made their bed, so to speak, and now they've got to kind of lie in it. They've got to provide a team that gives them at least a puncher's chance.
Sure.
And I do think, I think it would be a different story if they're in the West. To the Lakers' very slight credit, I don't think there's any chance of them winning, 3 or God forbid 4 series in a row, but they could win a series in the West. The West is
which we've talked about before. Lakers are one of like the 3 or 4 teams where winning playoff series and being competitive actually matters because they get free agents.
Right. Exactly. So, I guess what I would say about this thing is that the Lakers are going to give you the best offer. Don't let them shortchange you. If they're trying to protect the picks and stuff, you just got to be like, no. I think if some team out there, this is it only takes one idiot. I know if the Lakers get away with protecting a pick, like through like if they get through this slop season without with sending out a pick that is protected, there are going to be 28 GMs in the league who are really pissed.
Yeah,
like because they just have no options. Like
yeah, I mean the
they have to
Pacers and
overpay.
the Pacers and the Jazz both have basically said like at a certain point and said like come back when those picks are unprotected and we'll talk. But because the Pacers are not doing it without for the Buddy Hield Miles Turner thing. The Jazz have had a few different guys over the course of months that the Lakers have been interested in, and they're basically like, we have no interest unless those picks are unprotected for the obvious reasons we stated. Unprotected picks have crazy value. They generally speak, the Lakers are kind of dealing from a point of weakness because it's the only two assets they have with two of the greatest players of all time on their team. And that championship window, if it even is open at all, it's closing very fast. If you believe that the Lakers are contenders, I don't think either of us do, but I think that the Lakers have to think they are. And I think that there might be people around the league that think they are. So they're going to use that against the Lakers for sure. 100%. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if you caught this. I know it's like an ongoing joke whenever Harrison, our Lakers insider comes on the podcast, the clutch shill that he is, he'll come on and he'll talk about how there are three kinds of Lakers. There are three kinds of players that the Lakers generally acquire. One is obvious, the clutch guys, the former Lakers that have played for the team already, the Thomas Bryants, those kind of guys. Right. And then the third one, which is Bojan, who we're talking about right now. And the thing with Bojan is that obviously he scores 38 points. And I learned something very, very funny in Harrison's article, which is that Anthony Irwin, who hosts a Lakers podcast himself, him and Tim _NBA were talking about on the Lakers Exceptionalism podcast about how the Lakers don't watch other teams' games unless they're playing the Lakers. So, like, for example, Bojan goes off and he scores 38 points, and then the Lakers are interested in Bojan. And it's like, it's because the Lakers don't watch Pistons games unless they're playing the Lakers. And
that's like Doc Rivers when he had the GM power in like the Clippers. Do you remember like
Josh?
Like Byron Mullins destroyed the Celtics one game, like when Doc was the coach, and he like signed Byron Mullins like the next season as like the Clippers GM, like guy.
Incredible,
it was fucking awesome. Like that's the same shit. Like look, I get it to a certain extent. Like, you know, why be bothered to do your job? Like, it's LA, it's fun. Like,
sure.
LA is a town that is defined by no effort. Like yes. you don't. That is a who you know town, so it's more about keeping up appearances, talking to people, you know, connecting. How good you are at your job is completely irrelevant.
100%,
completely irrelevant.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Rob Pelinka just got extended,
right? Well, like it happens with like all of this other stuff. I mean, that is how things work for most clutch clients. It's like,
yes.
Do you deserve a $20 million contract? I don't know. Probably not. But I know this guy who knows LeBron. So hey, sign me up. You know.
Look, if the contract fails, we could always trade him to the Lakers in 2 years.
it's a perfect. I don't know. There's something very perfectly LA about that. You know. God, that is so funny though. God,
so it actually goes a little bit deeper than that, and this was my favorite part of it. In the midst of this joking that Anthony and Tim had on the podcast, Tim was informed by someone after this that the Lakers actually don't have any pro scouting department. So they have no one that watches other games. What? They literally don't have, like, they have a scouting department for like college guys and international guys, but they don't have a single person on their scouting team that watches other games.
So,
like, that's like a thing in the NBA, and they just don't have it.
Hold on. This is
I swear to God.
You can't. What? You can't. You just have your head coach do it? Like, what does he tell the guys going into the game? Like, we think this guy is pretty good.
I mean,
you just have your tape guys do it? Like, what?
I guess they're video coordinate. Like they have I'm sure they scout other teams, but like they don't have any sort of designated people that are pro scouting for players on other teams and for overseeing all of this. Like,
this is fascinating.
I mean, it's incredible. We joke about the Jeannie Buss because she got the PPP loan during COVID, and like but the Lakers really cut corners like they are a small business.
No, I mean they just cut corners like they're run shitty. They're doing the Twitter thing. It's the Elon Musk Twitter thing. Like, what the fuck? Like, oh my god, dude. I don't understand. That's like one of the only departments you actually need to have.
100%.
It's like that advertising, like the people who actually run the fucking building and like sell tickets, and like the coaching staff. Like, the next thing you need is oh my god, dude. That's so bad.
Yeah. So
that actually horrifies me.
So they don't have that. I just want, like, I want a Office Parks and Rec style mockumentary show about the Lakers, like, and this iteration of the Lakers.
But this is the thing. You have any idea how many guys are so starved for NBA jobs? Like, we know them. We are friends with them.
Sure.
Guys who would, for $5,000 and like I don't know, like a morgue drawer where they lay in it. That's their housing. They would do that job to have a job in the NBA, and you can't fill that job. Like, seriously, what is minimum wage? Like, what is minimum wage? You can do that job for minimum wage. I guarantee you would have 30 applicants. Like, I cannot believe this. This is so insane. That is so insane. How do you not have a department?
If you're listening to this, Jeannie Buss, Sam wants you to exploit more people. So put it up on Craigslist for minimum wage. Indeed.com.
You're a terrible capitalist. You have any idea? God damn it. You're not even a good, like, this is what I'm saying. It's just that it's bourgeoisie versus the capitalist. She really is. My joke with the Lakers is they've always been Lucille Bluth.
Yes, 100%.
It's a banana, Michael. What could it cost? $15.
It's 100%.
It's a scouting staff, Michael. What could it cost? $2 billion. Like, it's, oh my god, dude. I cannot believe that is truly insane. It's truly insane.
After learning this, I have to say I'm very upset that PJ Tucker didn't go off against the Lakers the other night when we played them, because if that's the case, we're getting an article today about the Lakers being interested in PJ Tucker.
Oh man.
But yeah, so some Lakers comedy, some more Lakers comedy actually here. Probably Sam's favorite part of this article was that the Lakers have expressed interest. We've known that they've been interested in Cam Reddish for a while. I think we've even joked about Cam being the third guy along the lineage of athletic guys who suck on their first team, like Malik Monk and Lonnie Walker, and then Cam Reddish would be the third. Yeah. No. Well, first off, we're banned from the podcast. I don't care if he scored 19 points against 19 points against the Heat.
You can't stop the truth. It's coming. It's coming for you.
Look, I want to slander the Heat. If there's anything I want to do is slander the Heat, but I draw the line at Romeo Langford praise and any capacity.
Okay, so, he's coming. NBA starter Romeo Langford. He is on his way.
It's gross. He looks like a TikTok teen. All right.
Exactly.
So the one thing about this new rumor is that they're interested in Cam Reddish and Evan Fournier are the two guys that they could potentially be interested in. To be fair to the Lakers, in the Shams article, it was not the way that it was spelled out was not like, it wasn't like they were including the picks. I'll read it straight up. They've discussed concepts with New York's Cam Reddish and Evan Fournier, sources said. So that's all. It doesn't say that they would include any of the picks. Unfortunately, I wanted to laugh at the Lakers and say, like, hey, like, this would be insane to trade one of those first for an expiring Cam Reddish who couldn't even get a second deal, and Evan Fournier who has one of the worst contracts in the NBA. But it could be a structure where it's basically just Kendrick Nunn and Patrick Beverley for those
Yeah.
two straight up. And it's the Knicks are just trying to get off the Fournier contract a year early.
Yeah.
And they'll include Cam Reddish to get off of it. Like that.
It's 2 years early, right?
No, he has a player option on the last year. I'm sorry, he's a non-guarantee or something on the last year.
But there's 3 years left though, right?
So it's this year and next year. So the Lakers would be taking on this year's Evan Fournier deal and next year. And then he's like not guaranteed, or it's a team option on the last year or something. So really that trade isn't horrible if you're giving up like a second round pick or nothing. I mean, I don't think it moves the needle in any way, but I'm assuming that this would just be an alternative to, hey, we couldn't find any good deals with our picks. At least we got in Cam Reddish, who we can now extend this offseason and match because we'll have his restricted free agency rights. And also Evan Fournier, who is a shooter, and like I guess he would be like a bench guy for them.
I don't like it, to be honest. Like I just also doesn't work on the trade. Like the Lakers need to send more. If it's
how
just
much
Beverly and Nunn, it's only $1 million, so you can send like Thomas Bryant or Juan Toscano Anderson.
Probably just send Damian Jones, who's not in the rotation.
Yeah. So I think that would work. Like adding Toscano Anderson works. But like, so that's the thing is it's like it's got to be a 3-for-1. Also, like, is Patrick Beverly? Like Patrick Beverly plays for them. You know what I'm saying? Like
he's not been good though. From everything I've heard, he's been like pretty bad. Which I mean, I wanted Patrick Beverly on the Sixers before the year, so like I'm not even going to sit here and act like I saw this coming. But he is currently shooting 29% from the field.
That's pretty bad.
And 23% from three. Like his numbers are horrible, and apparently his defense hasn't even been that good. So.
I mean, I guess, but then it has to be totally. I guess if the Knicks are getting off of the 48 contract a year early, that just seems like even if Beverly's been bad, which I'm skeptical that would be bad. You're the Lakers, and you're giving up $18 million of your flexibility. That doesn't seem good.
Okay, so here was my thought.
Okay,
and this might not be. I guess it doesn't really make any sense now that I think about it, because my thought was maybe they're trying to bring in Evan Fournier as expiring money for next year if they get to keep their picks. And then they can trade those 2 picks along with Evan Fournier's contract. That was my thought. But now that I think about it, I'm not sure that they would even have the cap space to be able to go out and sign Kyrie. And I think that all of this is kind of based around that. Like, I think they don't want to take on long-term money or big money that they can't easily get off of because they want to sign Kyrie this offseason. But like, if you're taking back Evan Fournier, that kind of goes out the window unless you just trade him into like cap space or trade exception. And at that point, what are you even getting back that makes it worth it? Like,
yeah, I think with, I'm not positive on this. I'm going to check real quick while we're talking, but like,
so the reason I say this is because while you're looking that up, I suggested, why don't they try to just get Miles Turner, and then after the season they can sign Kyrie, and then they can use Turner's bird rights to extend him. But I was informed that they would actually have to renounce Turner's rights to get the cap space to sign Kyrie, because like they still have Anthony Davis and LeBron on massive contracts, like, and the rest of it would basically be those 2 plus a bunch of minimum guys in Kyrie. Like, that's really the only way they can do it, unless they can get the Nets to agree to a sign and trade. And maybe that's what they had in mind here. It's like, let's just get salary filler that in case, and we could just send like a first round pick for Kyrie and then try to keep the other one.
Yeah. So salary cap's projected at 134.
Yeah.
Is Kyrie a 10-year? He's got to be 10-year by now.
100%.
So
no, he's at 10. He's 11th year.
Yeah, it would be like a 35% max for that. I just you need all your cap space. It seems like without like, I just don't see a way.
Maybe he takes a slight discount. Maybe he takes like a just to make it work discount. But like, I don't.
He certainly talked himself into that.
Like, he almost took the MLE last year.
Yeah,
we don't know if that was actually real, but.
No, I mean they basically they can't really afford to take on anybody one way or the other. Like,
yeah, exactly.
That's like, Yeah, I mean, it would be 46.9 and 98. Yeah, no. So they're like 10 million short, like right now.
Ba-
They need to.
Basically, the bottom line is the Lakers can't have the best of both worlds here. They either
No.
have to choose punting on this season and signing Kyrie next year, or they have to choose let's get guys who can help us win now that might have some extra years attached to their contract, or like Miles Turner, who like is expiring, but you could theoretically re-sign him. But in that case, you're not getting Kyrie unless you can get the
So
sign and trade with
so
the Nets.
if the Lakers were smart and I were giving them the benefit of the doubt, which I absolutely do not, what the idea behind this trade might be, you do this with the intention of trading Russ later on down the line because you do it. This is a pick. You're not using the picks here in this
Sure.
Evan Fournier thing. So you're sending out, you know,
None Beverly and who, yeah.
But you send out Westbrook in whatever other deal. I don't know
Sure.
who, the Jazz, Pacers, whatever. And assumingly in that deal, you're using one or both of your picks to get back multiple good guys, right? So maybe what the plan is at that point is Kyrie sign and trade with a couple of those guys going back to Brooklyn.
Buddy Hield or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like, do Buddy Hield and Miles Turner. You keep Miles Turner, but Buddy Hield and Evan Fournier go to Brooklyn or something like that. Like, or maybe someone else. You know what I'm saying? And then Kyrie signs, and you go. Now you're hard capped at that point.
Sure.
Which
presents another element.
Presents a whole other. I don't have to tell you guys. You guys know how fun operating under the hard cap is. Yeah. So. Maybe, but I would, if the Lakers were smart and they were sniffing around constructions like that, I would think maybe that is what they are thinking, is that this is not an either or deal. The idea is to do this in conjunction with a Russell Westbrook trade, and the way that they're going to acquire Kyrie is a sign and trade.
You could actually talk me into that, even if you just forgot about the Kyrie part, like you could talk me into them acquiring Cam Reddish and Evan Fournier as bench pieces if they were trading for Miles Turner and Buddy Hield. Because if your starters are Buddy Hield, Lonnie Walker, LeBron, AD, Miles Turner, and then you don't have to really depend on Fournier and Reddish, and they can kind of be bench guys that might be in or out of your rotation depending on how they're. Both of those guys' values come down to really how well are they shooting. Because like Evan Fournier is not shooting well to start the year. He's shooting 34% from the field as well, 33% from three, and we know he has defensive issues, as we've stated many times on the podcast. Cam Reddish is like I did a joke. I was joking in the Discord the other day, but I did a flirting versus harassment. Cam Reddish, 32% career 3-point shooter, flirting. Matisse Thybulle, 31% career 3-point shooter, harassment.
Yeah.
And but Cam's value, really all Cam's value comes down to is the 3-point shot dropping or not? Because if it is, then it's like, all right, you got an athletic defender who can do some things and can shoot and whatever. But like he's shooting, since he got to the Knicks, he's shooting like 29% from three. And like, then it becomes like, it basically the only way you're doing this deal is if the Knicks want to get off that Fournier contract a year early, a year and a half early, technically, I guess. And you're very invested and interested in developing Cam Reddish in the same way that you did with Malik Monk and Lonnie Walker.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's a fair enough, it's a safe enough bet, like I think whatever, I think that is a win-win in the scenario in which the Lakers are not doing anything with their cap space, which is a pretty big assumption, because that's the thing that really kills it for me is if they're planning to sign a free agent, then you absolutely cannot take on $18 million. For you. But, neither here nor there. But anyway, we're assuming the Lakers are a functional team, so.
We're assuming they're going to do the right thing, and that's not a good bet.
I was going to say, we're assuming a team is thinking this far ahead when they literally do not have a scouting department. That is insane. I still haven't recovered from that.
Well, okay. Who would win in a fight? the Suns non-existent actual scouting department, or the Lakers non-existing pro scouting department where they don't scout other.
The Suns at least good players. Jacques Landale ended up on the Suns, you know, like even without their scouting department, like
Damian Lee's been great for them.
Yeah, look, shit on the Suns all you want. Like, it is kind of a big dick move to just be like, yeah, our coach is fucking awesome. We can just hand him whatever garbage and he'll make
doesn't matter.
Work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just run around Devin Booker. You'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's fine. Shout out Monty.
Yeah, he's been clearly doing a great job.
He's really good, man. He's a great coach. Nobody's had to deal with worse shit than him, and he's just like fucking going with it,
rolling with the punches.
But Hunter Hayden just like fucking hates him for like seemingly no reason besides he played bad once, and it's like he told him to like stop playing video games, and he's like, "Fuck you, old man." Just
you're not my dad.
Yeah, just getting so mad at him. I'm never talking to you again all summer.
One of my favorite Monty stories is actually it involves the Celtics, actually. I'm sure you remember this fondly. When there was the first time that Chris Paul got traded, when he got traded to the Lakers and they vetoed it, they traded to the Clippers, whatever. There was a rumor that the Celtics were going to trade for him. Yeah. And it was going to be a deal built around Rajon Rondo. And when they asked Doc Rivers why he didn't do it, like years later, he had apparently said behind closed doors, he didn't want to send Rondo to New Orleans because he was friends with Monty Williams, and he didn't want to put that on him, basically, because he hated Rajon Rondo so much.
God, I love Rondo. What a little weirdo. He is one of my favorite Celtics of all time. That 40 burger he put on the Heat in a game they should have won, by the way. I'm still mad. That is the game 2 of that Eastern Conference Finals is still the most mad sports has ever made me.
I know Rondo was good for you guys, but imagine if you had traded for Chris Paul.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been because Rondo like tore his ACL, like, and it was just never the same again. Yeah, so,
exactly.
Like, I mean, I think if they knew he was going to tear his ACL, they probably would have doing it.
So too. Yeah. No, well, they were the ones that wanted to do the deal, but Doc basically held it up. Like, I think Danny wanted to do the deal because he knew how good Chris Paul was.
Well, also, Danny just has no.
Yeah. No soul.
Anything. He has no. Yeah. It's so funny that Danny is like just has no soul, is just the ultimate like trade everyone guy. But the only time like that hasn't been true was like Terry Rozier, who was like in trades for like years and years. It was like a John Collins like figure at times.
Yeah, he was
on the trade block, and Danny and like they would ask Terry to like come on like Boston Sports Talk Radio, and he's like, "Yeah, Danny's never gonna trade me." like he was like literally on like I don't know, I think it would have been a Barstool thing or something.
Mixtape, yeah. He co-hosted a podcast for a summer for Barstool.
And he FaceTimed Danny and asked if we traded me like as a joke because he knew he wasn't getting traded, which is crazy when there's an insane amount of rumors. But Danny really did love Terry and was never going to trade him. The only time they traded him was like almost at Terry's request. So
for his own good,
$20 million for way more than he was ever going to get. So
well. Speaking of, I said it on a podcast I went on last night. If I were the Lakers, I would be interested in Terry Rozier and PJ Washington. That would be a trade that because like that's like okay. So with PJ Washington, it's like okay, instead of targeting Cam Reddish, who's like a guy from the 2019 draft who's not good, why don't you target PJ Washington, a guy from the 2019 draft who is good? And also you get Rozier shooting and like you can extend PJ Washington after the season. That deal makes more sense to me from the Lakers perspective than a lot of the deals that have been out there.
Terry was really good. Like Terry's
and he's been also
he's been proven in the playoffs. That Hospital Celtics team, go back and look at the stats. Like,
oh, believe me, I know.
Tatum was I think barely the best player, but you could make an argument that Terry Rozier was the Celtics' best player in that.
In the Sixers series, I was pulling my hair out. He was fucking nailing pull-up 3 after pull-up 3. We couldn't do anything about it. It was driving me absolutely insane.
He literally ended Eric Bledsoe's career. That was,
Yeah,
he was never the same after that.
he's
series.
literally in China now.
Yeah. Oh
Like,
no.
yeah.
R.I.P.
Okay. So, all right.
Kenny
So,
Duncan is in shambles. Poor Eric Bledsoe. A fate worse than death in Nate Duncan's eyes. You can cut that if you need to.
no, you're good. Okay. So, all right, let's talk a little bit more about the other rumors that were mentioned in here. They're mostly the same things that we've gone over, which is the Jae Crowder deal fell through. That was supposed to be Jae Crowder to the Bucks. The Rockets got, in that case, the Rockets would have got Grayson Allen and 4 second-round picks from the Bucks, and then the Suns would have got Eric Gordon and possibly KJ Martin. And I'm assuming Dario Saric would also have been sent to the Rockets for salary filler there. It doesn't really sound like the Crowder to the Bucks thing has any more legs. Like, the Bucks don't really have first round picks to trade. Honestly, I kind of just wanted to bring this up because it feels like there is no market for Jae Crowder.
That seems crazy. Like, the Bucks really want him, but like they just can't give a first round pick for. Well, they have Grayson Allen. They want to trade.
Yeah.
That is what they want to do. Is they want to trade Grayson Allen for Jae Crowder,
Mhm.
and they just have no combination of other assets that can make that trade happen.
Well, they have their
problem.
2029 first, but you're not going to trade a pick that's 8 years out or 7 years out. And also on top of that, other teams are like, what do we want to pick for 7 years out? And like, you're not going to trade an unprotected, like Jae Crowder's going to be a free agent after this year. Like,
yeah,
I think if you were the Bucks, you probably just have to move on to other guys because it does seem like the Jae Crowder thing just isn't going to happen unless you can get Houston back on board. But in this article, it said Houston wanted a first round pick for Eric Gordon, which they've already turned down multiple firsts in the past for Eric Gordon. I know the Sixers offered theirs. We ended up getting D'Anthony Melton, and it's worked out a lot better for us, I think. And Eric Gordon, in addition to that, they also want a first for KJ Martin. So like they want 2 first round picks for Eric Gordon and KJ Martin, and that construction just isn't going to work. I just like the market for Jae Crowder is basically because of it's the exact thing we talked about in the last episode, which was every team has kind of already made their move with their first round picks. Like the Bucks sent out all theirs for Drew Holiday. The Sixers sent out 2 of theirs for Harden and to get off the Horford contract. Like the Nets already made their all-in move for Harden the first time. Like there aren't teams that have just extra first round picks lying around unless they are the teams that wouldn't be interested in trading for Jae Crowder because they're rebuilding, most of them.
Well, I mean, maybe we talk about this then because this leads into because there are teams that have their first round picks, but they're finding themselves, the 2 teams I'm thinking of in particular are 2 favorites of the show in the Miami Heat and the Toronto Raptors,
Sure.
who do have the ammo to make these trades, but all of a sudden their teams don't seem as good.
Yes.
It seems a lot more risky to spend up a big thing on these teams than it did, let's say last offseason.
When you could when it could be like the 13th pick in the draft and you're like, oh great, we just gave up like the 13th or the 15th pick in the draft for Jae Crowder. like Jay's a nice player, but like if you're basically what you're saying is you have to readjust what you thought that this year's pick was going to be, even though you do own it, but like you can't just send that out for any random role player unless you really believe that this start of the year was an anomaly and an outlier. And the Heat have been linked to Crowder a lot, and they were brought up once again in this article, and that's the team that makes the most sense to me of the teams that we've talked about because they need a 4. He's played there before, and then he's played for like every fucking team in the NBA. But mainly the big thing for this was, and it was mentioned in the article, is that they cannot trade. They haven't had the salary to match because no one wants to take the Duncan Robinson contract. Phoenix doesn't want to take on long-term money, so they can't even get off that contract if they wanted to. So Victor Oladipo and Dwayne Dedmon, Victor Oladipo, I believe, becomes tradable this week. I think Dwayne Dedmon's a little bit longer, if I remember correctly. Maybe January 15th for him. And so those two contracts are then movable for a guy like Jae Crowder. But you once again kind of run into this issue where, like, unless Phoenix is just like, yeah, we just want the first from Miami, like a future first or this year's first, like, what are they taking back? Like Dwayne Dedman, Gabe Vincent, and I don't know, fucking Nikola Jovic. Like, is that the construct? Like, there's not a lot of constructions that make sense from Phoenix's side where they're getting back guys that can help them win now, because that's what they want. Is like when they were getting Eric Gordon, then it made a lot more sense because Eric Gordon will just pop right into their rotation and be like a key contributor for them. Or they were getting both, especially if KJ Martin was also involved in that deal, because then you get a prospect as well. So, like, I don't know. The Heat seem to be in a situation where, like, I didn't realize this. I don't know if you know this. Victor Oladipo's deal is this year and next year. He has a player option next year.
He does, yes. I did know that.
That's bad for Miami.
Yeah, they didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
No, that's the thing. Like, they've been running on going back to that, because they really botched that. They should have been screwed for a while. The Jimmy Butler trade, like, saved them, basically. Like, the Jimmy Butler trade and then, like, drafting Bam, like, saved them. Like Tyler Hero is about right, but, like, Bam is the one that really, the draft pick that, like, really hit for them. Tyler Hero is kind of whatever, I think there's a little empty stats there. But the getting Jimmy Butler for what? Josh Richardson and
that's it.
It was just Josh Richardson.
It was literally just Josh Richardson. We traded Jimmy Butler for Josh Richardson. Yes.
Ooh.
It's tough. Yeah, it's very tough.
That's
tough. Why anytime someone sends me like, hey, would you trade Tobias and Maxey for Jimmy Butler? I'm like, we had Jimmy Butler on our team. I'm just gonna give up on the Sixers if this happens.
Yeah.
I'm done. The podcast is canceled.
We're done. We're out of here. But I mean, I guess to your point though, is like we are in a weird place where it's like the Celtics have some picks, but they really they just kind of don't draft anymore. They just on draft night just trade their guys for like so they've done that like three drafts in a row. Basically.
Most contending teams are doing that now.
Yeah, like Brad Stevens got the job and was just like, okay, we're not drafting this pick. We're taking Al Horford for Kemba. We're trading Derek White, so we're not going to have a pick in this draft. And then, next draft, no, we're not doing anything because we're getting Malcolm Brogdon. So they're like you said, Bucks, Drew Holiday, all that stuff. DeJounte Murray, the Hawks made that deal. Nets, like you said, over leveraged. Sixers leveraged with Harden. The Cavs have traded for Donovan Mitchell, so they're
it's crazy.
Taxed out. So you really do work your way all the way down to the Pacers, who are basically trying to tank ostensibly.
We think,
but are not. Yeah. The Knicks, who have like some fake firsts, but are just have like no NBA players on their roster. Like, how many NBA players did the Knicks have on their roster? Like 4?
I think the Knicks have NBA players. I just don't think that they're NBA players that really move the needle for most teams. Like, I think that they're NBA I think they have guys. If anything, I think they have a lot of players. They're all just mid players.
So how many guys on the Knicks do you think could be in a 7-man rotation for a team that won a playoff series? Just first round playoff series.
Actually, let me pull up their roster right now.
Because I think it's
Jalen Brunson. Obviously, we already know Jalen.
I was going to say there's one. I think there's one.
Oh
my God! It's Jalen Brunson.
No,
maybe Isaiah Hartenstein. Actually,
I think Mitchell Robinson could too. I mean, I think that I think so. I think he could.
Maybe I'll give Emmanuel Quickly the benefit of the doubt too. But
it's top 7. Yeah, I could see Quickly in there.
Yeah,
and then it's too early to say with some of their young guys. I like I like Deuce McBride, but like he's barely played in the NBA. And then Quentin Grimes, who knows, maybe eventually, but like, it's definitely oh my God, yeah, it's probably like 4 or 5 guys. Like, that's pretty tough.
It's really bad. So they just have no talent. So then you go to the next level, which is the Raptors and Heat. The the Bulls don't have any first round picks behind them. So it's
Yeah.
really the first time you have a team that maybe like the Pacers are not going to be buying, right? Like
No.
I think that's insane to think, right? Like, so really in the East, all you're talking about is everyone's kind of stuck looking at the Raptors and the Heat. I think that's what Zach Lowe was alluding to on his podcast. By the way, shout out Chris Vernon for calling him out for Raptors compromat. That was awesome. Did you listen to the Lowe post? Where
Did he say? I did listen to it, but I didn't catch the part where he said
Vernon called him out for being like, "What do you mean you've heard of things like?" What are they saying about the Raptors? A 500 team? Like, nobody's talking about that. Like he gave Zach shit for like say because I think he thought Zach was trying to go back to the sleeping giant in the
yes.
East thing. And
Yeah.
like
By the way,
I
think they're 2-5 since Zach made that comment, by the way.
Oh God.
With like 3 blowout losses. 2 losses to the Orlando Magic. Yeah, Zach really fucked them.
Yeah. I do feel kind of bad for Raptors fans now because they're like kind of like they don't really know who to. They're turning on Nurse, which is very funny because like this is not his fault.
He's like a fine coach. Like he's pretty good. Like
he's a demon, but like this is probably not his fault. Like you guys have they have 6 NBA players. That's the problem with the Raptors.
Is it his fault that Precious Achiuwa is terrible this year? Like I don't know. So. Like maybe construct a team that has multiple players who can play on offense, and then we'll talk.
Well, just maybe put some safeguards in place just in case your rookie has a very predictable sophomore slump,
yes.
And him not being one of like the 3 best young players doesn't just happen again for no reason.
Yeah,
that's God. I don't know, but anyway, I guess that's what I'm saying is I feel like this is all going to be informed by what happens. Like the Raptors and the Heat are the teams that are holding.
Which direction do they go in? The Heat are the obvious ones that, like, I've been saying for a while. I think the teams that should be pushing in the chips now because their theoretical window might even be closed already. Like the Heat's, like we've talked about, like the Heat might have just missed their chance, really. Like, unless it's Miami, maybe something falls out of the sky and they get cosmically lucky again, like they do from time to time. But Brooklyn and Miami are probably the 2 teams in the Eastern Conference that actually have some, like the Sixers are obviously also that team, but they have nothing to trade. So it doesn't really matter for them. But for Miami, they have 2 first-round picks. They at least have a few young guys that are like interesting, I guess. Like you might be able to talk yourself into Jovic or Gabe Vincent or one of these guys that they've discovered out of nowhere, like they always do. And then they have the picks as well. And then the Nets, they have that future Sixers pick, the 2027 pick. And then they also have salary filler. And then they have interesting young prospects like Nick Claxton that we've talked about. The Heat seem like the most logical destination for Crowder, but I just don't know how that trade is going to work. The other team that is interested in Crowder and is also interested in Kyle Kuzma is the Hawks. So the Hawks are apparently interested in Kuzma. They're still looking to move John Collins, if you've ever heard this one before. I will say that there was the wording in the Shams article made it sound like, I know he's going to word things a certain way, but it made it sound like it's a guarantee he's going to be traded, basically. Finally, he said. In the meantime, 2 notable names surely on the market and on the move are Jae Crowder and John Collins, which I don't think I know they've always felt out the market for John Collins and just never been able to make a trade for him. Yeah. But it does feel like John Collins actually could be traded. Now, once again, the Crowder trade gets complicated for Collins because if you're trading John Collins for Jae Crowder and expiring Jae Crowder, you're going to want to get back more. And also Phoenix doesn't want to take on the money, but there are other teams interested in him apparently, which include hold on one second. Let me just pull up.
Could be Miami.
So it's not Miami.
Use John Collins, really? Okay.
No, Utah, who I mentioned last week. I had the fake trade on the Patreon episode where they get John Collins. The Washington Wizards.
Imagine going from Atlanta to Utah. Like, God damn.
That's tough.
That's brutal.
That's tough, but also you're John Collins making $25 million a year, and you'll probably get the chance to be a little bit more of the man when you get away from Trae Young, which is something that it seems like he's wanted to do for a while. So
I guess that's true.
I guess it's not the worst thing in the world. And then so it's Utah, Washington, Brooklyn, and Dallas. Apparently Atlanta proposed, or the Nets proposed a deal that would have included Joe Harris to the Hawks in a construction.
Ooh.
And the Hawks didn't want to take back Joe Harris, which I don't really get from their perspective.
I guess if it's an injury concern, maybe
maybe this was a dated reference. Like maybe this was a move they tried to make a month or two ago, and now, but like Joe Harris is looking healthy again.
Yeah.
Matt Brooks just came out with an article today saying that he's playing the best defense of his career. His shot finally started falling recently. So like, I don't know. That seems like and even if Joe Harris
isn't
one
good, Nets are they're around, man. Like they might be that fourth team in the East. Like they might be
fourth. I would say.
The
Cavs.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, the Cavs.
I forgot about the Cavs. Yeah.
I was gonna say I still give the Cavs the benefit of the doubt. The Cavs are just good. Yeah. By the way, I somehow missed this when we started recording, but SLOP news from right when we started. Cade's having season-ending surgery.
Whoa.
Yeah. So they're on the shin. So
Woj or Shams reported.
Woj. So
wow.
So no more. No Cade for the rest of the year. So that is a Wemby. I'm sure he could have been back at some point, probably, but
they said that they were trying to figure. They were going to see how it was when he got, and 2 or 3 weeks ago they said he could be in, he could be out, but I'm sure it's what's the fucking point? The Pistons are terrible. They're tanking. There's no point in really. They're last place in the Eastern Conference, 7-22. If anything, I think this makes trading Bojan even more likely, especially because now everything it said in that article was that they didn't want to trade Bojan, but I think it's all just positioning and being no, we don't want to trade him. But man, what a rough start to Cade's career, dude. Jesus, that sucks.
I know. We make fun of Cade to get at people that need to be made fun of, but I actually do want to see. I think Cade is an all-star eventually. At least a couple times in his career, and I want to see him do well. So hopefully he gets right, and they get one more piece around him, and he can kind of be. The guy who he should be, which is the second best player on a really good team, a championship caliber team. Second best player on a championship caliber team, I think, is what Cade Cunningham is, and I'm excited to see it for him.
I think that the only silver lining you can take from this, as if you follow the Pistons, is that you're gonna have so many good prospects that for the future, even if two of them hit, you're golden, basically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you're drafting that high, that regularly, I think they've done a pretty decent job of drafting. I don't think that I think they kind of just take the logical guy to take. So hopefully that bounces back for them. That is tough.
It's gonna make the Ivy versus Cade thing really interesting, though, to see who's the guy who's backing up Killian Hayes in the next grade.
So Killian Hayes, here it is. Killian Hayes, Scoot Henderson with Ivy and Cade coming off the bench.
Off the bench, yes, perfect. There we go.
No.
Beautiful.
Cade
Scoot, of course, is simply running. He's there to screen for Killian.
That's right. Right. Yeah, he's a distraction.
He's there. He's the off-ball motion. It's the clay in the corners, flaring to the corners. So Killian can run his stuff in the middle there.
So the Nets, I just want to touch really quickly on. So it seems like the Kuzma. So the Kuzma rumors seem to be there might be a little bit of smoke behind it, and I've kind of thought that there has been real interest in Kuzma. I know teams want Kuzma, but I think that there is a real chance he gets traded just because of the way that Zach talks about it. Zach on his podcast has said multiple times that because of Kuzma's contract situation, because of things that he's heard. Like, he wouldn't be shocked if Kuzma was one of the guys getting moved at this deadline, because, you know, he has a player option after the year. There was a report, I'm not sure how much I believe it, that he wants to play for a contender and or in a big market. I mean, it seems like something Kyle Kuzma would like. Like, Kuzma, as I've said before, he's like a Zoolander character. He's just Zoolander character, just like, you know, with the fashion, and he's just a total goofball. But there were a few ideas that I had here that were like, so why don't, I guess there were two trades. One trade that I had was, the construction was exactly, and these are based on rumors that the Wizards are interested in John Collins and the Hawks are interested in Kyle Kuzma, both of which have been reported by Shams. Why don't they just trade Will Barton and Kyle Kuzma for John Collins? That works.
Seems pretty fair. How many years does Kuzma have left on his deal?
He's expiring, but if you're trading for him, you might get that, hey, wink, wink deal. We'll re-sign there. Atlanta's going to be a competitive enough team. He'll still get enough, I think, touches and like on-ball reps to satisfy how much he'll probably want the ball. And he brings at least a different element at that four spot. Like we talked about last episode, them trading for Tobias Harris. And like Kuzma is essentially going to give you a lot of what Tobias gives you. The scoring and shooting isn't quite as good as Tobias, but he's a better rebounder and defender than Tobias. And he also will make, and I had this question was, is Kuzma having his 2018 Clippers season where he just plays like way over his head, and then he gets traded to a team and then they have to pay a ton of money to keep him, which is what the Sixers did. So that would be the only thing that I'd fear. Like some team just offers them like 30 million in free agency, and then you're like, shit, now we have to pay to keep this guy.
Well, it's kind of funny because like Kuzma's like his career, he's kind of evolved throughout his career. Because he was kind of a hooper when he came into the league. Like he was kind of a bench scorer. Like he was a microwave scorer when he came into the league. That's not like really what he is now. Like now he's kind of more known as like a glue guy, like Larry Nance style, like kind of defend, rebound, forward type, you know, switching 3-4 guy. And those guys are valuable. Like I do wonder if John Collins' value has fallen so far that 4 years of John Collins at like a pretty good contract for what John Collins provides. I feel like that's got to be more valuable. I feel like they'd have to get something else back.
I'm going to be honest. I think I'd rather have Kyle Kuzma than John Collins. Like, I just think... Like,
I would too, but if it's a half year of Kyle Kuzma versus 4 years of you know, John Collins, I mean, I get it, but like you don't know what Kuzma's next contract is going to be. Because the other thing is, like, the agent has you over a barrel once you've traded for... You know what I'm saying? Like...
Absolutely.
Because there is, I mean, maybe there's a wink deal, but the guy like has to want to go there. Because otherwise, if you trade for a guy and you give up real stuff like John Collins, now the agent says, "Oh boy."
It's exactly what the Sixers have. Oh, so you just traded for Tobias Harris? You're just going to let him walk to Utah or Brooklyn? Like, no, you're going to pay us the most amount of money possible to keep him, because if not, then you lose Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris in the same offseason, and you just traded everything you have for them. You idiots.
Yeah. God,
that's the same exact thing that Kuzma's agent could be doing, which is like basically he might say like, hey, we want to extend, but like you can't extend till the offseason, and it is a calculated risk because he's an unrestricted free agent.
I think the Wizards could get real return. I think John Collins would be great return for him. I think because I'm a little. He must be like dog shit in the locker room or something like that. Because I get that he's like not everyone's bag, but like he's a very productive player who can space the floor. Like I feel like a good coach could use a guy like that that's got pop and like you know can do a lot of that stuff. I don't know. It just seems weird to me how out the league is on him. You know, he seems like a pretty useful player. But to your point, like hey, Kuzma. There's gonna be a lot of people looking for Kyle Kuzma. You know who's probably going to be trying to sign him in the offseason? The Lakers.
100%. It was so funny because last night when I went on Chucking Darts, he said, you know, you hear these rumors about, the Lakers want to try to acquire Kyle Kuzma, and I was like, wow, could you imagine Kyle Kuzma on the Lakers? That would be fantastic.
Yeah,
That would work.
Like, hold on, I want to like set the scene for you guys. Okay, so they used 2 firsts and Russell Westbrook, and they trade him to the Bulls, and they get Caruso, and they send DeRozan to the Wizards, and they get Kuzma and Caruso with Anthony Davis.
Could you imagine?
Could you imagine how good those guys would be?
Yeah. Look, I know they just traded for him, but try to get the Nuggets on the phone. Try to pry away Kentavious Caldwell-Pope.
I was just say, if you get KCP in the mix, that's golden.
I know Danny Green. They like him in Memphis as a culture guy, but the Lakers just 3 years later try to reconstruct the 1920 Lakers, and they're terrible. Like Danny Green's playing on one knee, and like Kuzma thinks he's a superstar.
What did you think of this? All we're bringing up the Grizzlies. What did you think of Vernon's saying that the Grizzlies almost won the finals last year? Basically, Verno is very interesting to me because Verno will do this thing where he will hype up a player that's on the Grizzlies, but then the moment that the Grizzlies let him go, he acts like he never hyped up that play. Like he does it with Melton. Where he's like, he loves Melton, and he loved Melton when he was on there. But then they traded him for like Danny Green and David Roddy, and I honestly forgot Danny Green was in that trade. But like they traded him for Danny Green and David Roddy, and he's like, whoa, what did everyone think they were just going to be not good because they lost Kyle Anderson and DeAnthony Melton? And it's yes, I did.
They're both very good players. Like, DeAnthony Melton is when the stars are out specifically is incredibly important to our team and was important to the Grizzlies as well.
Yeah, it's not looking like I'm going to get my play-in tournament Grizzlies.
No,
I might have to finally I might have to give up the ghost on that one, but I will not be giving up the ghost on the Grizzlies or playoff frauds. I'm not. They barely beat Cat, having one of the worst playoff showings of all time. And I don't know. I don't think
I'm kind of in on the Grizzlies as a playoff team this year. I'm not gonna lie.
All right, we're gonna have to.
Yeah, we'll have to disagree. I just think with how much better Bane and Jaren Jackson have gotten, Jaws already, like, I don't know. We'll see. We'll leave that be. I mean, they were not close to a title last year. Let's not joke and act like they were. They would have got crushed in the finals even if they made it.
Yeah.
Who would they have played in the Western Conference Finals if they won that?
The Mavs.
Yeah, I don't even know if they beat the Mavs. Like with Luka, I'm not sure. Like it would have been closer than.
I think it's more a byproduct of they match up well against the Warriors.
Yeah, they do.
And I think that is something that has gotten them more respect. Like I think if they play the Nuggets, they're going to be in deep shit. Like I think that's a bad matchup for them. Like I think there's a couple of teams that are bad. Now, given the West is not as good as I thought it was going to be, the Clippers seem to be dog water.
They seem to match up pretty well with the Pelicans, but I've been saying on podcasts I've been going on, if I'm the Pelicans, I'm making all-in moves at this deadline and trying to like I think the Pelicans the rare reverse YKB curse.
Yeah.
That we said that they were going to be West contenders, like potentially win the West, and they're 5-0 since then. They're 18-8 now. Like they've been killing teams. So
well, I think their over under was like 48. We both were like, I think we both locked the over. Yeah, like we've been pro Pelicans this whole time. Like I think we both even said it almost is irrelevant whether or not Zion plays. like
they're going to be good either way, and he is playing, and he's absolutely crushing now that he looks somewhat in shape and healthy. So
let's go.
Yeah.
Man.
So we'll get to that stuff later. Before we move on from the slop stuff, we've literally been going on an hour on this one Shams article that basically has the same recycled stuff we've been hearing for months, but it's the tiniest. It's December 15th this week. The trades the rumors are gonna start popping up again. So I just want to first off, I actually kind of like the direction the Nets have been going in the last few weeks. I don't understand their interest in John Collins at all. I don't think that John Collins fits with what they need. I would rather trade for Miles Turner if I'm trading for any guy that's available, if that's possible. I'm just like, like, if you're keeping Nick Claxton in this situation, you're trying to trade like Joe Harris and maybe the Sixers first round pick in 2027. Was that construction for John Collins? Like, how does Ben Simmons, Nick Claxton, and John Collins work?
No, Miles, you need to have like Miles Turner with Ben Simmons. Like, there's like 3 front court partners in the league you could have with Ben Simmons, and like Miles Turner is one of them. So
the John Collins thing does not make any sense to me unless he becomes a 40-point more willing 3-point shooter like he was. And even then, like, I still think his shooting's a bit fake. I would honestly, I didn't know Kuzma isn't the greatest shooter, but I would rather have an athletic 4 like Kuzma and just put Ben at the 5 and try to outscore teams if I were them.
No, 100%. No, John Collins is not a good fit with Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
It's just there's no anything. Yeah.
And then the last thing before we move on from this, the other team that was interested in Kuzma was the Suns. What if the Suns just called the Wizards and said, "Look, we have no trades for Jae Crowder. Jae Crowder, our first round pick this year for Kyle Kuzma, and Kuzma wants out." Like, this is in the situation where Kuzma wants out, and he could be interested in going to them because they're contenders. Like, is that something that you think both teams would consider?
Well, first of all, I think aren't they adding $3 million?
$3 million, yeah.
Yes.
The Suns.
The
Never
Suns
mind. The deal falls through.
The deal falls through there.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think that's a lot because Kuzma's better, but like, that's a lot on the surface. That'd be like, wow, why are the Suns giving up a first round pick there? But we know the context is that you're not
getting anything.
Yeah, because Jae Crowder just doesn't play for you. So
exactly.
You're essentially buying a player. He's just filler salary. So
and giving up like a late first for Kyle Kuzma would be great value.
And especially if you could re-sign Kuzma.
Yeah.
I like his fit with that team. Like, going past Chris Paul, like, fits well next to DeAndre Ayton and like, Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges. I like that trade a lot, actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
If Cam Johnson gets an offer somewhere else in free agency and you don't want to match it, you can do a sign and trade and move on from Cam Johnson, and you have Kuzma as insurance.
Yeah, and if you're the Wizards, you can flip Jae Crowder too. Get something else, Yeah. Why not?
The only thing, and I said this, was it actually goes back to the Russell Westbrook trade. And remember over the summer when we both didn't love the move, I believe you also didn't love the move for the Wizards when they traded KCP for Barton and Morris. We were both just like, it's kind of like a whatever move. Like a move that looked like a master class from Tommy Shepard, getting Russell Westbrook, moving him for Kuzma, KCP. Montrez was included in that deal, but he was solid for them. But like, to then look at it a year later and be like, oh man, all you have left are Monte Morris, Will Barton, and if Kuzma walks in free agency or you don't get something back for him, like nothing really. Like they're gonna end up. It's better than having Westbrook, but like,
I was just gonna say that's the thing, is you did avoid having Russell Westbrook on your team, and you did have like a real team you could put around like Kristaps Porzingis and Bradley Beal, so you could like.
They were better with Russ though. To be fair,
I guess that's true. That is true. I mean, I think they will. I think if they will either trade Kuzma for something or re-sign him. I doubt he just walks in free agency. I think if they're going that direction, they're probably going to trade him. So I think they will get something in the return, because that was the big prize of that trade was Kuzma. I do love KCP, but like, God, that was such a stinky deal. As far as Monte Morris is not.
Kuzma, I think KCP is really good and can contribute to a lot of teams, but having a wing Kuzma size that can score, rebound, defend, like that's just a player you don't get for $13 million, which is why he'll make a ton of money after this year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's also better than Jayson Tatum, as Lakers insiders.
What a perfect transition. So my question for you is, do the Celtics beat the Warriors the other night with Kuzma instead of Tatum?
You'd have to think so, right? No. So
we have to talk about this game. I just want to put the context of this game before we get into it.
Okay.
Because
so let's start with me dying in my bed, because that's literally what's happening. Is I'm sweating.
You knew it was coming.
I can't actually. I'm watching the TV. I had to mute my group thread because I'm having cold sweats nights. So I have the TV on. I keep falling asleep and passing out in that sickness, and I'm having like weird dreams. I think the dream I was having at the time was Shigeo Kageyama Mob from Mob Psycho was calling me a baby and throwing a fish at me, and then I'd wake up in like a cold sweat, and I'm like looking back at the screen, and the score is just climbing, and I like look at my phone because I had to mute my thread, and I have 364 texts on the Celtics group thread, and that's what I know. Like I fall asleep, but I've missed something quite
one
bad.
For every day of the year.
I'm not kidding. That was the exact number. It was 364. I remember this like clear as day because I'm taking my milk of the poppy, which is what I call ibuprofen, just so I can like sleep a little bit more. I mean, like, look, let's start here. Okay, so
the context. What I was going to say was the Celtics are coming off probably the best victory in the NBA this season, going into Phoenix and absolutely destroying the Suns in a way that made us think, wow, maybe the Celtics are like, and I've been high on the Celtics, but that game made me think. I watched most of that game and was like, oh wow, maybe this is like the Warriors again, like when they first popped on the scene. And maybe the Suns are even bigger frauds than I thought. Also the Suns shot like shit from that game, but still they played horribly.
Yeah.
And then they go into the Warriors, who have been struggling this year, but have played better recently. And it did feel funny. I know they didn't have Al Horford for that game. And Robert Williams is obviously still out. So that's not going to be the full team. But it did just feel funny because you've been railing on the Warriors and saying they're frauds. And then they play their best game of the year.
So this is how I wanted to start this segment. Is because, like, we see this all the time. Like, we have a name for these type of games, trap games, where you're playing the second best team or third best team in point differential one night, and then the next game on the calendar is the team that's fourth in the Pacific Division. Obviously, you're going to look ahead on the calendar. Like, well, a 500 team, you're gonna get up for a 500 team. Like, no. And look, that's what happened to the Celtics. That's what you get for looking past the team. You've got to treat these middling, pissant little fourth in the Pacific Division teams more seriously. You've got to respect them. So
to quote the great Stephen A. Smith.
Okay.
Sir, do you have any shame?
I have zero shame.
Do you have any shame?
I have
okay.
Zero shame.
So the reason I wanted to talk about this was because obviously all the stuff that we've talked about with the Warriors, it does feel, and I know this was not the Celtics full strength team, but the Warriors also didn't have Wiggins. But the funniest part about it to me was that Bill did a whole podcast last week, literally set up his boys. Although Jalen actually played really well in that game. It wasn't even necessarily Jalen's fault that they lost. There's
been a couple of games like that, by the way, this year.
Yeah, well,
of Jalen showing up and Jason not. And vice versa. That happened a lot last year, where it was vice versa, where Jalen did not show up and Jason didn't. So, I mean, look,
but I just want to say Bill made it about this whole mental toughness thing and them wanting to prove to everyone that they're not afraid of anyone and all this stuff. And then they go into Golden State and Tatum plays his worst game of the season. Let's be like, he's been, we've talked about it. Like, he was probably the MVP front runner going into that game, and he probably still is, but I
don't think so.
You think that one game is such a big narrative?
Yes. That narratively that's killer. Because that's the guy.
It's so early, though. It's December.
I know, but that is going to stick with people. I'm telling you that these are the games. There's like 7 regular season games that matter, and this is one of them.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the thing. I think so. That's the thing. I mean, like now putting aside all of my like things and everything. So the real thing is, the Warriors are probably a little better than the record. I do think the Celtics kind of like shot like shit, and like maybe there is something to that the Warriors just do kind of have the Celtics number in terms of matchup, because the old Celtics that went the other way, where
Yeah.
like when the Warriors were really good, the Celtics were the team that would like hand them their first home loss. That year they were undefeated until way late in the year. It was the Celtics who finally beat them on the road. The year they were like 73-9 or whatever.
Yeah. I remember.
And the Celtics weren't that good. So like, maybe they have figured out something to Tatum. I think it's more likely that just Tatum, that's Tatum's defining characteristic as a star, is he just has stinkers. Like he's had a couple recently. Like he just really will just have games where he's just like not good. And that was like one of them. He's had a couple other ones.
One against the Heat too.
One against the Heat.
He had one really good game against the Heat, and then Jimmy came back, and it was like I believe it was the game Jimmy played in that Tatum struggled as well.
Well, it's funny because you see in the overtime game they lost against the Heat, in this Warriors game, you see the playoff, you see the same things you saw in the playoffs, right? like where if you can get Jayson Tatum out of rhythm, and like two other guys don't shoot well. Like Derek White, all playoffs last year was, for whatever reason, a 29%. All of a sudden, just became a 29% 3-point shooter for the playoffs. Yeah. Like you suddenly you could beat the Celtics. Like and I think the Warriors like sort of understood that. And I think they understood they got Clay going early, which I think was important. Because that's the other really important part of their team that's a little shaky. Is if Clay. Because I think that's probably their biggest wild card, right? Like, is if Clay can be Clay, then all of a sudden the Warriors are a very different team. Like they're
the favorites in the West again. Like
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I think the Warriors, got up for that game. I think that was a big game for the Warriors. Did you see what Jayson Tatum said after the game?
No,
was it Jayson Tatum or was it Jaylen Brown? I think one of them said, "I think this game was a lot bigger for you guys than it was for us." Which
is like the funniest thing you could possibly say in that situation. Well, one of the things I was going to say was that it does feel as though the Celtics are this, and maybe this is, I'm just taking the one Grant Williams statement when he was like, we should have won, and like was like pissed about it. Yeah. But the way that the Celtics have carried themselves since the finals is that it does feel like they felt like last year was a little bit like it probably was. And I think that they're going to have I picked them to win the finals. Like, obviously I think they're going to have another chance this year, but like they saw it as a prime opportunity. And I think that the Warriors and their arrogance and rightful arrogance, they've been the best team in the NBA for a decade. Like they should be this arrogant and confident about themselves. The Warriors took it as kind of like, oh, you thought that like we aren't shit, basically. Like you're like you look at it like that was our title to win. The Warriors stole it from us. But really all of it just comes back to, once again, Steph's greatness, in that like someone said to me the other day, like that was like the 6th best Warriors team from the past decade. like that wasn't even one of the top 4 Warriors teams, and they won the title anyway because Steph was so good. So I guess my whole thing here is I think the Celtics can beat anyone in the NBA, but it does feel as though that the Warriors are probably going to be their hardest matchup again, just because they're the Warriors. Like the Warriors are the Warriors, and until Steph is not Steph anymore, they're going to be the force to be reckoned with in out of the West.
Yeah, no, they have a uniquely. I think there's that thing where I think it's the same thing to the Heat, where it's like if you're a team that plays steals and is very handsy with the ball, like what the Warriors do, because they don't have any of their options. They're not going to overpower you with physicality. Like, that is literally the only way the Warriors can play.
Their speed and feel. That's their whole thing. Yeah.
Now, I do think, again, I think the finals would have been different if Rob was 100%. I think that game would have gone all differently. This is the matchup where, because everyone says, look at how good the Celtics are playing without Rob Williams, trade him. This is the type of series where you need Rob Williams. Like, this is the versatility, because I don't think the Warriors have any answer for Robert Williams. And I think that is this is a game where you would have, in a series where you would need Rob Williams quite a bit. I don't think the Celtics are going to see the Warriors again.
That's if you're a Celtics fan, that's got to be like, you just got to be like, well, we'll just. I think you guys are going to win the East. I mean, maybe the Bucks. We talked.
I don't know. I'm not looking past the Bucks. Let me put it that way. I think you should have a lot of. Yeah, I think the Bucks have a very good chance to. A lot of things could go wrong for the Celtics. Like I think the Bucks. Honestly, I think a bad series against the Cavs too. I don't think. I don't think the Celtics could lose in round one, but I do put a floor on the Celtics of. I don't think it's impossible for them to lose to the Cavs if like a couple guys get hurt and some things break wrong in round one. The Cavs are not a good matchup for the Celtics.
Have we heard anything about Chris Middleton? Because I don't know, like I know he just sprained his ankle. Like I think he's going to be fine. I don't think his injury is serious, but like Chris Middleton was finally starting to look like the same kind of player again, and he got hurt. And like I'm sure the Bucks are just being super cautious, but like. I think that when it comes to these injuries, like history tells us that when a guy can't really stay healthy, it's tough for him to, continue to play throughout the regular season and then be healthy for the playoffs. So it's at least something to keep an eye on, because I think the Bucks are a very different team without Chris Middleton, as we know.
Well, I want to go back to that quote, and I'm trying to figure out who said it, but whichever Celtic said it. So when they said it was a bigger deal for you guys, they meant the fans.
Okay, gotcha. So I thought you meant the Warriors. I was that's bold.
Say that. So that was their point. Was like, to them, this is part of the season. This is a game that you play like any other. That they were trying to say. I don't really believe them when they say that. I think
that's total bullshit.
Yeah. I was gonna say
this. If they win this game, they're saying the exact opposite in the press conference.
Yes.
They're saying we wanted to make a statement.
Yeah. So, and I think that, I don't know. I just think that the Celtics, the way that this is, because I think they understand the Boston media. Because that's the other thing, is also the reaction has been insane. There's been an outsized reaction. I think it is insane to say that, like, all of a sudden the Celtics are like all of their goodwill vanished in one game in Boston. I don't know, like in the echo chamber, the Celtics echo chamber that I live in.
Bill was panicking on his podcast with Sal today, by the way, about the Celtics.
This is what I'm saying. Like, that is so insane. Like, this is just, you're so gun shy. Because I get it. Because there are things to worry about with the Celtics team. For example, close records, overtime, close games in overtime. The Celtics are not very proven there. Like, now, given it doesn't matter when you blow out a team by 20 points,
sure,
but the Celtics aren't that great in close games, to be honest. Like, and that is something that can come back to haunt them later on. But I don't know. I just think that this is a perfectly designed game to take fan brain and turn it to like 7,000. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I was going to say. Because Bill built his whole thing on this mental toughness thing, instead of like really what happened was like skill development. Like Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown have developed, whether it is, and sure, maybe mental toughness is a skill in itself, but like it's more like these guys just realize, hey, we get better every single year. We're going to work on our games in the offseason. We're going to come back even better the next season. As we discussed in the last episode, Jaylen Brown is shooting out of his mind on pull-up mid-range shots in a way that I don't even think is sustainable, which has made him look even better than he probably is. And I think that like the mental toughness element of it is like, if you build your entire thing on that, which most sports fans think is more important than like actual talent, and especially Bill, it's like, that game will crush what you thought about a team, even though they're 21-6 and the best team in the NBA.
They do this. He and Russillo both do this insane armchair psychology thing for like Smart, Brown, and Tatum. All three of those guys. I can tell you right now, those guys have been mostly the same. They have gotten a little bit close. They've gotten closer. They understand each other better. Those guys they've gotten more talented as players. They've developed skills. They have not gotten more mature or anything like that. These guys came in mature. They came in ready. It is insane fan brain thinking. what I was going to say for his terms of fan brain is like, this was, if you're a fan of the Celtics, the Warriors beat you. They made you very sad. And this is the one you wanted. Was this team made me sad, so I want to see my team beat them as payback. And you spend all of this whole year, you spend a quarter of the year just edging, like, oh, the Celtics are so good. The Celtics are so good. They're the best team of all time. The Warriors are bad. The Warriors are bad. The Celtics are good. And you're just watching the tidal wave come towards it on the schedule. Like, yes, we are going to blow out the Warriors by 40 points. And I'm finally going to get to call Steph Curry a little bitch. And it's like, my life is finally going to be good again. And as the wave crashes down, it's like, nope, they have one of their only bad games of the year. They have one of their 3 regulation losses of the year so far. Like, and that is just insane. That is like, that just drives, that's what everyone is really mad about, is that the Celtics got in the way of righting the hurt that they still carry in their heart from the finals. That is what this is about. Like, this was supposed to be a revenge game, and they didn't get the closure that they needed. Which, like, it's like, I don't know. I'm sorry. It's annoying they didn't win, but there was, like, no Al, no Rob. Like, I'm sorry. That's, like, that was always gonna. You're on the road too. It's not like it was a home game.
Well,
like,
I think if anything, it reinforces what we talked about in the last episode, which is that the Celtics should probably figure out an emergency third big, because look, not every team's the Warriors, and I'm sure whoever you're throwing out there, Cornette and Griffin and Blake or whatever, can be fine in these regular season games against the Hornets and the Grizzlies or whatever. But like, when you get to the playoffs, it's a different beast. Like, it's just, you're going to be facing good teams every night. And like, if Rob or Al is out on a given night, like, they tried to go small with Tatum, and it was at Tatum at the 5, which didn't make any sense. I don't even think they went with Grant at the 5, if I remember correctly. And it was not good. The results were very bad. And I think it would just be nice to have that third option, is my point.
Yeah. I'm trying to find the stat, because I know, shout out to my buddy Brian, I think, who was the one who told me this. I think the Celtics are 0-3 when they have more than 2 days rest. So the Celtics are rhythm merchants. They are rhythm merchants is the real thing here.
So what you're telling me is that in the playoffs, oh no, I guess in the playoffs they only give them 1 day off in between games usually, right?
Two at the maximum. So more than 2, like, is
you're saying that Sixers Celtics, we got a chance. We just got to hope.
Yeah, say, if that's a 3-week long series, because like,
Slipknot is playing at the Wells Fargo Center.
Yeah, exactly. You need to kind of get Dance Yourself Clean guy.
LCD sound system.
Yeah, LCD sound system to play a residency at Wells Fargo.
I'm down. Get him on the phone.
Get the thing delayed. Yeah,
I love me some James Murphy. I've seen his DJ sets before. They're great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the Celtics are going to be fine. It was just funny that after. I really just wanted to bring that up, especially because of the fact that you've been, kind of hating on Steph and the Warriors. And then also, more importantly, that Bill kind of hyped up the Celtics and Jalen and Jason for being this duo that was unbeatable. And then they obviously lose in, like you said, their 3rd regulation loss of the season. I think they'll be fine. I think you guys are still the favorites, but the Warriors, the Warriors thing, I feel like Zach when I think about this, because it's like last year when when the Raptors and the Sixers played in the playoffs, one of the things Zach said was like, well, like, the Raptors are like the nerd team. Like, I love the Raptors. Every podcaster loves the Raptors. The Sixers have Joel Embiid and James Harden, and they might just be the better team, basically. And if that is the case, then why aren't we just picking that? Like, my whole thing with the Warriors is like, are we just overthinking the Warriors because they started poorly and like they still have not lost a playoff series with those 3 guys when they're healthy? Is back. So we'll just edit that part out. Yeah. So your power went out?
Yes. Delightful.
Oh my God. Steph Curry is just, he's pulling your power.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is the Warriors. The Warriors have me down horrendous. I mean, I do, like, I have to take it on the chin. I think I'm still mostly. I still feel pretty comfortable in my overall analysis of the Warriors. I think they've got a real starting lineup. I think a lot is going to depend on for them what they do at the buyout. The only thing I did get wrong is I do think the West is weaker than I thought it was going to be, and I think it's absolutely possible that they could come out of the West. I just don't think it's likely. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't think the Warriors are like I think it's like last year. I think if you run the West in a simulation like 6 times last year, or like 100 times last year, the Warriors come out of the West like 80% of the time. I think they were the clear favorites last year, and this year I think they come out of the West like 30 out of 100 times. So I just don't think it's super realistic. But
okay, so I just want to say though, since they won their first title, there has been so I guess the Raptors year, no, because Clay was in and out of the lineup that year too. Like every time that those three have been healthy, the Warriors have at least won the West.
The league was like not as talented.
True, that's true. It is much better now. And
look, the East with LeBron was like the Celtics were a 1 seed. The Isaiah Thomas Celtics were a 1 seed.
Yeah, that's true.
Like it's just like
the West had some good teams though.
The West had some good teams. Yeah. Yes, the West did.
The Spurs, the Thunder before KD left, and yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Once they got KD, it became a disincentivizer to everyone. Only like one other team tried, and that was the Rockets. It was like the Rockets and Cavs were the only teams in the league trying. You know, so I think this most recent title they did is the most impressive of their titles, just in terms of like, in terms of unlikelihood. I mean, maybe their first one too, but like, I don't know. I think it's impressive. I mean, hey, credit to the Warriors. They were ready to play. Steph outplayed Tatum in a big game of the year, so I've lost a lot of agenda. I've kind of got to eat shit there.
Yeah, I know.
It is what it is, you know. I do think Celtics fans shouldn't get very carried away with it. I do think, you know, I think the Warriors at least put to bed some of my slander, which is that, you know, the Celtics were tired. Hugo, did you see Hugo had a pretty good tweet that was like Jayson? He said something about Jayson Tatum. We can all agree Jayson Tatum wasn't injured now, right? And I was mad, but god damn, it was a good tweet.
You gotta give him credit.
I give him credit.
Yeah, I actually kind of agree with him. It was fake, but anyway, but yeah, I do think that maybe we overreacted a little bit to the war, and once again, we know that the simple fixes for the Warriors are basically like, can we just squeeze out one more rotation guy that isn't James Wiseman? And that's probably going to fix a lot of their issues in the playoffs, at least if they can remain relatively healthy. The Jonathan Kuminga played. I've seen Jonathan Kuminga play 2 of the best games of his career in the past 2 weeks. And I'm not ever been a Kuminga guy, but if he could even be a rotational wing for them, like he was playing big minutes in that game, and he won't be playing big minutes for them in these games because Wiggins will be. So there's at least some hope there that with Kuminga he can play, and if Kuminga can play and be a solid guy, and Poole has figured some stuff out, then they really just have to upgrade like one more rotation spot to be like a problem again, I think.
Yeah, no, and you know. That's the other thing, though, is they also just need to be healthy. That's like the most important thing, you know, is you know, because Draymond, they need Draymond, they need Clay, they need Wiggins, all 3 of those guys to stay healthy. Like the only guys they can really survive injuries to are Poole and Thompson, you know, like they don't have, like if the Celtics lost Jaylen Brown, I don't think their title chances are necessarily like over just because of their depth, you know, like I think that, you know, they're not favorites anymore, but I don't think that they're like over. I think the Warriors, like if they like lose Wiggins, I think they're just not getting out of them.
Yeah.
Like the West, you know,
that's probably what it really is that their top 3 or 4 guys are so important to like what they do as a team because they can't really rely on the depth, even though Steph gives you a pretty wide margin for error because he's just goes nuclear and is like, as Derek White said on JJ Redick's podcast, is like, it's 48 minutes of where's Steph Curry is when you're going against them, because like you're constantly having to run around screens and do all the things that make Steph a superstar. So, okay. Last thing I wanted to get in here, and I started to talk about it because I thought you were gone for the episode, but basically that, you know, Joel Embiid has another incredible game last night, 53 points, is now leading the NBA in scoring. I forgot about that part. Pretty incredible. Second straight year that he's been leading the NBA in scoring. Why are you laughing?
Your reaction, the way you're announcing this is like, it's like you're announcing that like your girlfriend has found a second boyfriend, like in front of them. Yeah,
so anyway, my girlfriend's leaving me.
It's his second year leading the league in scoring. Good for him. That sounds awesome. You know, look, I love him. I'm happy for him. That's a great thing for him.
So the reason I say this is because, and even Joel kind of joked about it last night on Instagram. It does feel like that. Like it feels like, and I don't know how to explain this because, and I've been kind of pushing off saying this, but like everyone kind of, whenever they talk about the Sixers, has this same feeling of like, it's kind of over. Like it just feels like, and I know it's early and it's easy to say that now, and you never know what's going to happen, but like they needed 53 points from Joel Embiid in an incredible game from him. He was hitting tough shots. He was at one point, he had 3 straight and ones, which I've never seen before in any game before, to have 3 straight and ones and convert all the free throws successfully. Like he was incredible. He was awesome. But at the same time, like the Sixers don't do, like when I watch the Celtics and the Warriors and even like the Suns and like the teams that have been in the finals the last few years, maybe with the exception of the Bucks do it sometimes, but like mostly those teams, like there's ball movement, there's plays being run, there's hustle on defense, there's getting back in transition, there's fighting for offensive rebounds, and the Sixers just do nothing that like good teams do. and like that's really what it comes down to, is like watching the Sixers team, it kind of feels like it's a little bit over because they don't do the things that like most teams do at the highest level, that they could scrape out victories on the margins, basically is what I'm trying to say here. And like Joel posted on Instagram, like his teammates were like, hold up, let him cook, like the Toy Story whatever
Kingdom Hearts, actually.
Kingdom Hearts, that's it.
Yeah.
The Kingdom Hearts. I knew the game, but
the Woody holding out his arm.
Let him cook.
Let him cook.
But it feels like, why do you need Joel Embiid to score 53 points to beat the Charlotte Hornets? Like I can't even take a positive from it like I usually would, because everything just feels like a fucking mess. And once again, yeah, maybe Maxey, as someone said in the comments, Maxey coming back will bring some joy back to the team and maybe light something under him. They're 17th in offense right now. Their defense has been much better. I expect that to regress a little bit, but I think their offense should hopefully get better. But like, I don't know, dude. Like, it's one of those things where I feel like a little bit of a broken record, but like, I almost had a fucking meltdown during that Lakers game. I did have a meltdown during the Lakers game the other night. When they blew a 10-point lead in 30 seconds and the Lakers sent it to overtime. Like it's just like, what do I even take from these games? Like, you have to have Joel Embiid score 53 points to beat the Hornets. You don't do anything that winning teams do. You almost blow a lead to the fucking Lakers, man. Like, the Lakers suck, and they were playing with more intensity and more energy, and they knew they could come back at the end of this fucking game. I'm very much like, the only thing that I could possibly hope for is Maxey comes back and it reinvigorates the spirit of the team and they start to play like an actual fucking team. Because right now it's just like, even the wins they feel kind of empty in a way that I had never expected this to go. It's just crazy. Like, I thought they were going to be a really good regular season team and they just don't fit or work at all.
Hey, well, you know why? You know why they needed 50 points to defeat the Hornets is because Joel Embiid looked at his bench and he saw a man he deeply respects fighting for his job. And
You can't do this again.
Joel said, I need to save this man's job. I know our fans want this man to lead us for more. I need to get this win.
Oh, I actually did want to this just the last thing before we get out of here. Mm-hmm. Rich Hoffman from The Athletic, who covers the team, was basically like, I've never seen a fan base have a disdain for a head coach like I do. Like covering the team up close and personal. And he didn't flat out say it in the article, but he was essentially suggesting that like it's possible that it could be getting through to the team as well. Like they know how much the fans hate Doc and they know how much everyone just wants him fired, that like the implication was that like it might actually kind of affect the on-court product.
This is what you've got to do. You've just got to you've got to make it uncomfortable. Like everyone knows that he's not fired because you still owe $24 billion for the next like 3 years. Like, so got to do something. Sorry. Like
it is the first time that I've ever heard of that happening though. Like where like the disdain for a head coach is so just blatantly obvious. And when you're rolling out there and you're just like, yeah, fuck it, roll the ball out. I tweeted yesterday during the first quarter, no ball movement, no plays called, no hustle on defense, just vibes. And they're bad vibes. They're not even good vibes. They're just there's nothing there. And if it is, obviously the simplest fix would be to, fire Doc. And we've gone over that 100 times. I'm not going to go into it, but like, one of the things is that when you make all these all-in moves and then your on-court product is just middling, like I am left with no other feeling other than like it's basically going to take cosmic luck, as I said on another podcast, for the Sixers to be able to swing back into contention, make a team good enough around Joel. Like Joel has proven again, he is good enough to be the guy. But like, is that enough when you're out of, like, you fired all your bullets basically? Like that's it. That's kind of like, it's like, you don't have first round picks, all your prospects you either didn't sell at the highest point of their value or you need them on your team to continue to compete. Like, it would be great to trade Shake Milton because we have so many good guards, but like Shake Milton's been really important to the Sixers this year, which is crazy. Like, that's kind of the position that they're in, and it feels very strange.
Well, it's because Shake Milton was one of their young players that they actually played. And when you actually play your young players, who's the person who doesn't actually play the young players? It's coaches like Doc Rivers not playing. So it's like a compounding problem. I don't know. I still say I think it's going to be surprising how good the results are. Like once there's any sort of practicing, let's say, of playing basketball, like from perspective. It seems like Doc. Did the Sixers have practices? Like, if the team wasn't
like they have shoot arounds, but like I don't think they have formal practices. I'm not even joking. Like George Niang got in trouble a year ago because he said on JJ Redick's podcast that they don't practice. And then he had to come out and be like, oh, let me just be clear on what I meant by that. And then like came up with like a lie. Like they don't practice, dude. Like Tobias Harris said that like in the past that one of the reasons why he thinks he's been able to play so many games in his career is because he's played for Doc for so long. And because Doc just doesn't have practices. And it's like, what are you doing? You watch these games and you're like, yeah, we don't need to work on anything. Like,
God damn, dude. I don't know. I think there's more hope in firing Doc than you seem to think. I think there's significant upside there, just in terms of vibes, in terms of because once you start winning consistently, a lot of this stuff changes. Like, I don't know.
But then
stuff changes fast in the NBA, which we always talk about. But
sure, yeah. I just want to say, I just want to look up who like. Can you think of a single coach that's been fired this deep into the season other than for a playoff team other than David Blatt?
When was oh God, I'm blanking on his name.
Team
Lloyd Pierce. When was Lloyd Pierce fired?
Oh, that's a good one. But they, by the way, they weren't a playoff team when he was fired.
Oh, you mean they were a playoff team when he?
Yes.
I can't believe early. What are you guys, like 2 games up out of the play-in? Like,
yeah, we're well, yeah, that's true. I mean, with the parity in the NBA right now, the Sixers are 14-12, and the Pacers they're a half a game out of the play-in. So yeah. There's a so like what you're telling me is like I basically should be rooting against this. They should actually be rooting against the Sixers in the interim.
No, because I don't think it does any good right now. I think you need to be rooting against the Sixers in like February once the Eagles have won the Super Bowl and the like the eye of Sauron of the city of Philadelphia turns to the Sixers. Like
someone said we should just talk about the Eagles and like. Look, if the Eagles flame out in the playoffs, that the fire and the passion of Philadelphia fans on the Sixers and specifically Doc Rivers will be historical.
Oh
so
can you? I don't think there's going to be a bigger Eagles fan than every member of the Sixers coaching staff because if the Eagles lose, it's just going to get channeled into like
the rage.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so Lloyd Pierce got fired when they were 14-20. Right now, the Sixers are 14-12, and then they went on that run and whatever. So I don't know. I'm kind of pulling for some sort of like it's so hard to like root against the team that you have to watch, but like if they lose to the Kings tomorrow, like. I don't know. Like their upcoming schedule, they do have a homestand, which will help, and Maxey will be back soon, which will help. But right now they have the Kings, the Warriors. Their upcoming schedule is Kings, Warriors, Raptors, Pistons, Clippers, Knicks, Wizards. It's not that hard. Like it's kind of like for the modern NBA, that's pretty easy. That's like there are some pretty mid teams in there for I don't know. Well, we'll talk about it hopefully later. I will be doing a stream. If you're still listening and watching, first off, thank you. Second off, I will be doing a stream during the Sixers-Warriors game, so you'll get to see me potentially have another meltdown on playback. The link is in the description. Check it out with me this Friday, and sign up for Underdog, promo code SLOP. Anything else you want to say before we get off here, Sam?
Well, Sam Bankman-Fried was arrested today in the Bahamas. I think that's very interesting if they're arresting people associated with FTX. So just something for the league to take into consideration that FTX, anyone who endorsed the man behind FTX has been arrested. Maybe they want to distance themselves from anyone who tied their name to FTXs, maybe disqualify them from any awards. Maybe their team from any achievements they may have accomplished in the past calendar year. Just something for the league to look into.
If you want to extend it back a little bit further, in this extends to the NFL, Tom Brady, just parody, satire.
I will. By the way, I would absolutely trade every single Patriots title for one Marcus Smart ring. I am not kidding. I would absolutely do that in a heartbeat. Just all gone. The whole Patriots dynasty. Poof. Don't care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Just for one beautiful Marcus Smart ring. That's all I want.
You're a sicko. You're an absolute sicko.
I'm a pervert. Yeah.
All right. Let's end it there. I'm going to clip that part and everyone's going to kill you.
Yeah, I was going to say, you put that one on TikTok and just...